You ever stand in line at Target, holding that extra item you didn't plan to buy and think, come on, I've had a rough week. I deserve this? Yeah, that phrase has emptied more wallets than you'd believe. Here's the truth. No one wants to admit impulse spending often feels like self-care, but it's really self-sabotage in disguise. And before you beat yourself up, let's clear something up. This isn't about being irresponsible. It's about being human. Let's rewind for a second. Growing up, how were you taught to handle stress or emotions? For most people, especially in the US, emotional comfort came from consumption. Bad day at school? Here's a happy meal. Feeling sad? Let's go shopping. Celebrating something? Swipe the card. You earned it. From childhood, many of us were trained to connect spending with soothing, not saving, not strategy, soothing. And now, as adults, we carry that same wiring into our finances. That $8 latte, those random Amazon buys, the just-looking Target runs that somehow turn into $75 receipts. They're not about the stuff. They're about trying to feel better, and the worst part? It works, even worse for like 5 minutes. Then the guilt kicks in. The balance drops, the cycle repeats. You want to build wealth, right? But deep down, do you really believe you can, if you keep sabotaging your own progress every time emotions rise? Here's the wild part. Most people don't even realize they're stuck in this loop. See, in American culture, treating yourself is marketed as empowerment. You've seen the ads. You're worth it. Live a little. Don't wait. Indulge. But behind that language is a message that equates buying with identity. And the more you spend to feel like enough, the more you reinforce the belief that you weren't already enough to begin with. That's the real trap. Not the Starbucks cup, not the new shoes, but the mental script that says, I need this to feel okay. Let's get brutally honest here. This script doesn't make you feel powerful. It makes you dependent. Dependent on moments of temporary satisfaction, while long-term peace stays just out of reach. But guess what? That belief, I deserve this, isn't totally wrong. You do deserve something. You deserve stability. You deserve freedom. You deserve to look at your bank account and feel safe. And that starts by challenging this tiny, seemingly innocent phrase, it's just a treat. Because if that treat is costing you your goals, your clarity, and your control, is it really a treat at all? Look, if you've ever felt guilty after spending money impulsively, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. There's actually a really good reason why you do it, and it's not because you're weak or undisciplined. It's because your brain's been trained that way. Think about it. If you grew up hearing things like, money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that, what kind of relationship do you think you developed with money? Probably one built around fear, scarcity, and a little bit of shame. And when you mix that with emotional triggers, like stress, boredom, or even celebration, it becomes the perfect storm for impulse spending. Here's what most people don't realize. Your spending habits aren't just about math. They're about psychology. Deep emotional wiring that started way before you ever had a paycheck. And once you understand why your brain reacts the way it does, everything starts to make sense. Let's break it down. Every time you buy something impulsively, whether it's a $4 candy bar or a $400 gadget, your brain gets a hit of dopamine. That's the same chemical that lights up when you eat your favorite food, fall in love, or win something. So, naturally, your brain starts linking shopping with pleasure, especially if it's helping you escape a negative emotion. And the more stressed, tired, or emotionally drained you are, the more your brain craves that quick fix, that temporary high. Because in that moment, spending doesn't feel reckless, it feels relieving. But here's where it gets tricky. Over time, that relief becomes a habit, a coping mechanism. Your brain learns that spending is the fastest way to change how you feel. And suddenly, you're not just shopping to buy things, you're shopping to self-soothe. The problem is, that high doesn't last. And when it fades, you're left with regret, maybe some debt and a feeling that you're not in control, which only leads to more stress, and the cycle continues. It's not your fault. Really, it's not. This isn't about being bad with money. It's about being human in a system that's designed to make you spend. From targeted ads to buy now, pay later schemes, the world is built to trigger those emotional responses. And unless you understand what's happening under the surface, you'll keep falling into the same traps. So here's the compassionate truth. Your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do. It's protecting you, comforting you, trying to make you feel better in the fastest way it knows how. But that survival mechanism, it doesn't serve your long-term goals. It doesn't build wealth. It doesn't create peace. It just keeps you chasing the next hit. And if you've ever felt stuck, like no matter how much you budget, you still end up overspending, it's probably because you've been trying to fix a behavior without addressing the belief behind it. That's the shift. That's where real change begins. Not with another spreadsheet, but with understanding your emotional blueprint around money. Because once you see it clearly, you can finally start rewriting it. Here's the mindset shift you've been waiting for. Money isn't the enemy, and impulse spending isn't your biggest problem. It's just the loudest symptom. The real issue? You've been trying to control your spending without changing the beliefs that drive it, and that's like trying to fix a leaky faucet without ever checking the pipes. Let's slow it down. Every time you've told yourself, I need to stop buying stupid stuff, or I just need to be more disciplined, you were treating the behavior, not the cause. That's why it never sticks. Because deep down, your brain still sees money as a way to feel safe, feel seen, feel in control, especially when the rest of your life feels anything but in control. But what if we flipped the script? What if, instead of using money to chase comfort, you used awareness to reclaim power? Real power, not the rush from a new gadget or the thrill of fast shipping, but the kind that comes from pausing long enough to choose your next move instead of reacting to a feeling. Here's a practical move to get you there: the 10-second pause. That's it. Before you buy something, anything, pause for just 10 seconds and ask yourself, what am I really trying to feel right now? You'd be surprised how often it's not about the item at all. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you just want to feel in control of something today. That pause, it interrupts the loop. It gives your brain a moment to step out of impulse mode and into intentionality. And don't underestimate how powerful that can be. Most people think transformation has to be dramatic. They want to flip the table, start over, become a whole new person overnight. But change that lasts. It starts small. It starts with moments like that. Tiny acts of self-awareness that begin to rewire your default setting. Think of it like training a muscle. The more you practice pausing, the more natural it becomes to make choices from your values instead of your emotions. And over time, those small pauses add up to big results. Less clutter, less guilt, more savings, more peace. This is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think being good with money means cutting out all the fun, all the spontaneity. But that's not freedom. That's just another form of restriction. Real freedom is when you can spend money intentionally, without the crash afterward. And look, this isn't about being perfect. You're still gonna make impulsive purchases sometimes. We all do. But the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. It's about building trust with yourself again. Because every time you pause and make a choice you're proud of, you're sending your brain a new message. I'm in control now. Not my emotions, not the ads, not the fear. Me. You don't need more shame. You need more clarity. And that clarity starts with one tiny, powerful moment. The decision to pause. So next time you feel the itch to spend, just try it. 10 seconds. One breath, one question. That's how change begins. That's how you take your power back, one thought at a time. You ever wonder why some days you spend without thinking, while others you've got your wallet locked down like Fort Knox? It's not random. Impulse spending isn't this mysterious, unpredictable thing. It follows a pattern. You just haven't been taught to see it. Most people walk through life reacting to their emotions without realizing those emotions have rhythms. And money? It often becomes the release valve. If you've ever found yourself scrolling Amazon after a long day, standing in front of your fridge with the door open, even though you're not hungry, or suddenly deciding you need a new pair of sneakers at 11:47 p.m., that's not coincidence. That's your emotional trigger in action. Here's the truth. We all have spending triggers. Times, moods, even environments that flip a switch in our brain that says buy something, feel better. But the problem isn't the feeling, it's the autopilot response. You don't even realize what's happening because it feels normal, and that's what makes it dangerous. Think about your own patterns. Do you spend more when you're stressed at work? After an argument? Late at night when no one's around and your guard's down? Maybe it hits when you're bored, scrolling your phone, seeing everyone else's perfect life and thinking, maybe if I just had that one thing I'd feel better. That moment, right there, is the fork in the road. Not because of the money, but because of what that moment represents. See, impulse spending isn't about the purchase, it's about the promise. The promise that this little thing, a shirt, a gadget, a takeout order, is gonna fill a gap, soothe a sting, distract you from a truth you don't want to face. And that's where it gets deep. Because once you start seeing your patterns, you can't unsee them. And that's a good thing because awareness is power. You can't change a habit you don't even know you have. But once you track your triggers, write them down, study them, you start to take control. You start realizing, oh, I always want to buy something when I feel ignored, or when I'm exhausted, or when I've had a win and I want to reward myself. Suddenly the pattern isn't invisible, it's obvious. And when it's obvious, it's beatable. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about understanding yourself. No one ever taught us to connect our emotional states with our financial behaviors. And honestly, that's why most budgets fail, because they're just numbers on a page. They don't account for the real stuff, the fear, the fatigue, the craving for validation. But once you start connecting the dots, you stop being a slave to your emotions. You stop letting your environment dictate your bank account. And that's where real freedom begins. Not in restriction, in recognition. So if you're ready to take control, start here. Look back at your last 5 impulse buys. Write down what you were feeling before each one. What happened that day? What emotion you were trying to manage? You're not doing this to feel bad. You're doing it to get free. Because when you understand your patterns, you can start creating better ones. Ones that serve you. Ones that build the future you actually want. I deserve this. You've probably said it before. Maybe after a long day, maybe after a win. Maybe just because life felt heavy and you needed something to lift the weight for a minute. And hey, you're not wrong. You do deserve something. But let's talk about the cost of that phrase. Because when it comes to money, I deserve this can be one of the most expensive sentences in your vocabulary. It sounds harmless. It even feels empowering. But more often than not, it's a cover, a justification, a bandage over something deeper that hasn't been dealt with yet. And if you're not careful, that tiny sentence becomes a financial drain that leaks your power, your goals, your peace. See, there's this illusion that spending is a form of reward, like you've pushed through the hard stuff and now you get a prize. But the truth is, most impulse purchases don't actually reward you, they rescue you from stress, from boredom, from loneliness, from feeling like your life is stuck in neutral. And that's where things get messy. Because when reward spending becomes your go-to strategy for emotional relief, you're not practicing self-care. You're just trying to survive another day. And survival mode is expensive, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally. It chips away at your confidence, your clarity. You start to feel like your money is controlling you, not the other way around. Let's call it what it is, a trap. The worst part? It's a trap wrapped in nice packaging, delivered with dopamine and a shipping confirmation email. The spending isn't the problem. The story behind the spending is. The story that says you have to buy something to feel seen, feel successful, feel in control. But here's a powerful reframe. What if you started rewarding yourself in ways that didn't cost your future? What if you redefined what you actually deserve? Because listen, you don't just deserve a treat. You deserve to be debt-free. You deserve to look at your account and feel peace instead of panic. You deserve the kind of stability that isn't followed by guilt or regret. That's real self-care. And real self-care feels good later, not just in the moment. It's okay to want nice things. It's okay to celebrate yourself. But ask yourself, is this purchase a celebration or a sedative? Am I adding joy or am I numbing pain? That kind of clarity changes everything. It puts the power back in your hands. It lets you say, yeah, I could buy this, but maybe I'm not looking for a product. Maybe I'm looking for a pause, a breath, a break from something I haven't dealt with yet. That's emotional maturity, that's financial healing. And it starts when you stop using "I deserve this" as a reason to avoid your truth, and start using it as a reason to build a life you don't have to escape from. So next time you hear that little voice say it, don't shut it down. Just get curious. Ask yourself, what do I really deserve? You might find the answer has nothing to do with shopping and everything to do with healing. You ever feel like you're constantly battling your own willpower when it comes to money, like no matter how strong your intention is, there's always something that pulls you back in? That's not just you being weak. That's you being targeted. Because here's what most people don't realize. There's a billion-dollar industry studying how to make you spend without thinking, and they're damn good at it. From the moment you open your phone, your wallet is under attack. The flash sale emails, the limited time countdowns, the only 3 left in stock, pop-ups. It's not accidental, it's design. These companies hire psychologists, behavioral scientists, and data analysts whose entire job is to figure out how to bypass your logic and hit you straight in your emotions. They know exactly how to light up the part of your brain that craves instant gratification. And here's the thing, your brain isn't fighting fair. It's wired to react emotionally first and rationally second. So by the time you're thinking, do I really need this? The dopamine's already pumping and your finger's already hovering over buy now. You're not undisciplined. You're outgunned. They use urgency to create panic. Ever noticed how one-day deals somehow happen every day? Or how your cart starts flashing that something's about to sell out the second you hesitate? That's manufactured stress. They're not just selling products, they're selling fear of missing out. Because when you're emotionally triggered, you stop evaluating whether you even want the thing. You're just trying not to lose the chance to get it. And let's not forget personalization. They know what colors you respond to, which products you linger on, what time of day you're most vulnerable. If you ever thought it was weird how that ad popped up right after you mentioned something out loud, it's because the algorithm knows more about your habits than you do. It's not a fair fight, and unless you become aware of it, you'll keep losing battles you didn't even realize you were in. But here's where things shift. Awareness kills manipulation. The moment you recognize the game, you stop being a player and start being a strategist. You stop falling for fake urgency. You stop letting a sale dictate your self-worth. You start asking, wait, do I even want this, or did someone just make me feel like I need it? That question alone can save you thousands over time, because the truth is, they've built an emotional battlefield. But once you know where the landmines are, you can walk differently. You can pause before clicking, you can mute the notifications, you can unsubscribe from the noise, you can build an environment that serves your goals, not theirs. And maybe, just maybe, the next time an ad pops up promising to change your life with a new pair of sneakers, you'll smile and say, nice try, but I'm playing a bigger game now. Most people think the solution to impulse spending is more willpower. Just grit your teeth, delete the apps, cut up the credit card, and swear to do better. And sure, that might work for a week, maybe 2. But eventually, life hits. Stress shows up, emotions take over, and suddenly you're back in that same checkout page convincing yourself this time's different. It's not that you're lazy, it's that willpower is a terrible long-term strategy. What actually works? Systems. Not rigid, joyless rules, but smart frameworks that help you make better choices without burning out. Because the truth is, you don't need more discipline. You need less friction. You need your environment to make the right decision feel easier than the wrong one. Take the 24-hour rule. It's simple. Anytime you want to buy something over, say $50, you wait 24 hours. That's it. You don't delete it from your cart. You don't shame yourself for wanting it. You just pause. And here's what's wild. 9 times out of 10, the desire fades. Because what you were craving wasn't the item. It was the feeling. And once the emotion cools off, the logic can finally speak up. Or maybe you set up a splurge fund, a fixed amount of money each month just for guilt-free spending. No judgment, no spreadsheets, no overthinking. You want to buy a random t-shirt or try some new gadget? Cool. Use the splurge fund. When it's gone, it's gone. That way you still get your dopamine hit, but without tanking your budget or triggering regret. You're not cutting joy, you're containing chaos. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Control isn't about restriction, it's about intention. When you have systems in place, you don't need to micromanage every penny. You just need guardrails that keep you from drifting too far off course. That's how trust is built. That's how habits get real. And don't underestimate the power of automation. The less decisions you leave to chance, the more consistent you'll be. Automate your savings. Set calendar reminders for check-ins. Put a sticky note on your laptop that says, "What are you feeling right now?" It sounds silly, but those small cues break the autopilot. They give your brain a chance to check in before it checks out. The real win isn't just spending less. It's spending on purpose. It's knowing that every dollar that doesn't go toward impulse buys is a dollar building your safety net, your future, your freedom. That's the shift, from reaction to strategy. And when you start living like that, something wild happens. You stop fearing money. You stop seeing it as a source of stress or temptation. You start seeing it as a tool, one you're actually learning how to use. That's when the game changes, because now you're not just avoiding bad habits. You're building a new identity, one system at a time. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. Let that sink in for a second. Because if you've ever sat there wondering why, no matter how hard you try to save, to budget, to do better, you keep ending up in the same financial loop, this might be the real reason. See, it's not always about the money. Most of the time, it's about the mindset behind the money. And if deep down, some part of you still feels like you're destined to struggle, like you're not the kind of person who gets ahead, or that wealth is for them, not for you, then no strategy, no budget, no spreadsheet will ever be enough. Because your thoughts will sabotage every step forward. That's why this conversation isn't about tips and tricks. It's about truth, the kind that forces you to pause and ask yourself, what have I really believed about money all these years? That it's hard to earn, that it disappears fast, that I always mess it up? Because whatever story you've been carrying, whatever narrative has shaped your behavior, it's been calling the shots. But here's the thing. Stories can change, beliefs can evolve, mindsets can be rebuilt, and you don't need to wait till you've got $10,000 in the bank to start acting like someone who's financially free. You start now, in the small decisions, in the way you talk to yourself after a mistake, in the grace you give yourself when you're learning. You start by saying, I'm not broken, I'm rewiring, and I deserve peace, not just someday, but now. So if this whole series has hit a nerve, if you've caught yourself nodding because you see these patterns in your own life, that's not failure, it's awareness. And awareness is the first real win, because now you're awake, you're seeing your impulses not as random flaws, but as emotional cues. You're spotting the moments where your money is trying to cover up a feeling, and you're realizing you actually have the power to choose differently. The truth is, most people stay stuck not because they're lazy, but because no one ever taught them how to break the cycle. Not just financially, but emotionally. And once you get that, once you stop blaming yourself and start reprogramming the story you've been living in, everything shifts. You stop spending to feel worthy. You stop buying to feel better. You stop chasing relief and start building roots. And that's the goal. Not to become some hyper-disciplined robot who never treats themselves, but to become someone who knows the difference between comfort and clarity, between relief and reward, between a purchase that adds to your life and one that tries to fill a hole that money can't touch. So if this hit you, if even a piece of this made you pause, maybe it's time to unlearn a few things. Maybe it's time to start building your financial future from the inside out. Hit that subscribe, turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. I'm right here with you, helping shift the mindset, one thought at a time.